to your layout. That's why I went.
All right, folks. Aloha Friday Live. Thank you for being with us tonight. I am stoked, and we were just talking about this real quick. My man Chello, as I, so lovingly know, uh, he does his own thing, right? He has his own show, man. He's lighting the evenings up, both on LinkedIn and Clubhouse, man, because I saw you last night. I just peeked in there and you was in there. I was like, okay,
Mhm.
I didn't have no time, so I just jumped right back out. But Aloha Friday, everybody. Thank you for being with us tonight. We're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, which is leadership and waste management. Now, for those of you that know Cello from, LinkedIn and all his different posts, that's his work. That's his passion, right? So he's going to talk a little bit about that, what he does and all that. But then we're going to talk about leadership and waste management because Cello, there's a lot of waste. But before we get into all that, man, give me a little bit about you, your background, what you're up to.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, my name is Marcello Arcele. I'm a waste stream analyst right here in Metro Atlanta. So I work with small to medium sized companies. And quite frankly, many times I work with large organizations. I just got off the phone with an individual that's going to be partnering with one major airport here, Air Force Base, the Dobbins Air Force Base. So that's one company. You name them, Black and Decker. So anyway, it runs the gamut. So I work with companies that they want to save money, other folks that want to implement a sustainable recycling solution, or even reduce their carbon footprint to incorporate a sustainable solution. So if that sounds like you, and you know someone that, or know someone that I can help, please reach out to me directly. I'd love to see how it could be of service.
Outstanding. I love that, man. And sustainability is where it's at, right?
Mhm.
In any aspect, in business and life, can you sustain it? That's one of the things that I always ask when leaders start to make these big decisions or trying to bring out these, grand ideas. Is
Mhm.
it sustainable? Is it something that we can do? Is this a one and done, or is this something that's going to carry us out through the longevity of the company? What is it? So great thing that you guys are doing in that arena. Now, tell me how with the pandemic and all the, I'm sure that things in the waste management arena must have got overloaded some way,
It
shape, or form.
did. It did. Sadly, a lot of our competitors, we're the second largest company in the nation, and we have the fleet, we have the infrastructure, and we have the logistical know-how to weather
Mm,
this pandemic. However, it hit a lot of us, even directly. I say a lot of us,
right.
meaning for us in the industry. But fortunately for us, we've had what made difference in our organization is that our average driver's tenure exceeds 15 to as much as 18 years in the industry. So we have veterans that, healthy veterans at that, that we could actually, manage to go through some trials and tribulations and still come out clean, pun intended. Unfortunately, some of our competitors, I'll get the calls. I'm talking about the large guys, and I'm getting calls from people like, "Well, Marcello, I couldn't go with you then because your price was too high." I'm being very candid. My
Mm,
price is not the lowest of other folks in our industry, but at the end of the day, sometimes you need service, and price may not be, top of mind for you. So I've garnered quite a bit of business, mainly because the service wasn't there from some of our competitor.
right.
And then, given that also we've been our volume has gone up quite a bit. So at that point, our demand is gone up as well. So then we have to be very selective of who we want to work with. So our process that we had before is tried and true, and we still continue now. We make sure that when we sit down and talk to clients, the process that we go through is not more of a qualification process. I like to call it more of a disqualifying process. And
Mm,
it's a lot of people, when I say that, it really it's like, huh? But yeah,
I
you
love
want
it.
to, yes, the questions you want to make sure that you'll be a good fit for them as they're a good fit for you.
Right, right.
It's just like an interview. Think about this.
Yep.
A lot of people don't know that when you go to interview for a job, that ultimately you are also interviewing them. So if you approach it that way with your clients, you can ensure, and here it comes, you have a sustainable relationship. So yeah, that's how we approached it, and we've been very successful.
And you say this is the sustainability of a relationship, and before we get into that, Crystal and Ricky, thank you for being with us, faithful viewers that consistently show up. So I really am appreciative of you joining us tonight. But sustainability in relationship is one of those things. And she made a comment here, Crystal, that makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. It makes sense, though, right? And I love the disqualifying attribute of that whole exchange there, because it's something that we don't do. We we try to qualify somebody, and sometimes to our own demise, because we end up coaching them to get qualified. So
That's a good way of putting it because we're asking the questions for them to say yes to, right?
exactly right. So we end up uh, basically qualifying somebody that may not be qualified to work with us in one way or another. But here's another comment. How are some of the strategies for the changes on single use containers that has come from the pandemic?
Single-use containers. And I guess what they're asking about is recycling containers, essentially.
Mhm.
With the single-use containers, the same process that was in place then hasn't changed.
Right,
Essentially, you still have. We're recommending folks to rinse them out, clean them. If you're going to recycle them, if you're going to reuse them, the same process.
right.
Because I know people in my family that they keep some of the single-use containers
Yeah.
just yeah, mainly for, let's say, for instance, if you have family over and you want to give them something to take away, but you don't want to give them your good Tupperware.
That don't come back, right?
So yeah, so the same process hasn't changed. It's still tried and true. But if you're talking about in the business within organizations, the only changes that has happened is um, contamination levels have shortened. In the past, what was acceptable was anywhere between 20 to maybe 10 to 20% now. Now it's so stringent that it has to be significantly visually less than 10%. Anything more than that is going to take effort to sort it out, which goes into the margins and
Yeah,
ultimately then it's not
yeah,
profitable. So organizations like us, when they see that, they'll say, at this point, that has to be treated as waste. And we see that as an opportunity to either re-educate our clients or educate some of their, I guess, frontline folks to ensure that they get put things in place. And I've had a solid process that I'd be more than happy to sit down and talk to anyone about
yeah.
to ensure that if this works for anywhere, a company that has 5 people, 100 people, or as much as 5,000 to 10,000 people. The process that I have has been not necessarily patented, but I'll say this much. I work at a company called Stanley Black and Decker. You can see it in my profile. The process that I incorporated with them allowed them to reduce the waste that went to the landfill by 63%. And this
Wow,
is
that's huge,
documented
huge.
information. And then lastly, to wrap up that point, our efforts was it was so remarkable that they were highlighted by the local organization here in Atlanta called Keep Georgia Beautiful, and they got awarded first place. So
Wow. Yeah, no, that's a huge, huge effort on their part, and what a success story, because to do that takes a lot of commitment and a lot of foresight and a lot of deliberate actions. So kudos to them, double, because they already got awarded, but kudos to them. And when we're talking about, because I we are a family that loves to recycle, because we believe that we don't need to be making uh we make chairs and tables, and now that's all nice, and you can't recycle the stuff. But if we can help, we can help,
Mhm.
and so we're recyclable people. But I've seen some people get chase the chase the recycle truck down, trying to get their
Yeah.
garbage into the recycle bin. It's hilarious, but it ain't funny, right? I'm laughing because it's comical if you see it, man. But
Mhm.
it's not funny, right? And all it takes is a little more effort,
And now
just a little more effort.
and to just to add to that, I think about on a personal level, like a lot of local waste companies, they just cannot afford to offer recycling. Sadly,
Uh,
and mind you, I'm only speaking to a lot of local and even companies like us. I can't speak to if we offer recycling everywhere for residents. I know certain areas that we might or may not, but I'm ignorant to that, so I can't comment on that. But I know on a personal level, I've utilized our competitors at my home, and initially they'll offer recycling, but eventually they just dwindle it and they don't offer it anymore because it doesn't pay. It's a
mm,
loss leader, and it doesn't pay to
wow.
run that route because, unfortunately, as much as you want to do that, it's just that the society is not educated, or maybe the lack of initiative is not there, and then they just cannot justify that expense. And then what happens is that people lose jobs. That's a sad thing.
Yeah, yeah, and when I was talking about seeing people chasing folks down the street, because I'm still laughing because I still have it in my head, but it was over pizza box. Now this folks, now everybody thinks that because it's cardboard, it's recyclable.
No.
But folks, there's a little bit of education, and this is just a little bit I know. If it has grease, it's no longer just a cardboard box.
Thank you. See, you're a smart man. You figured that out a long time ago. I always like to use that as an example, like the pizza box. I said once it's contaminated, that's a wrap. You can't use
Right.
it. And because the best example I'll use, I'll go one step further. I'll say, well, think about this, right? And maybe a lot of people don't know this. What happens at this point? That cardboard is actually put into among other cardboard in a huge washing machine, and the temperature exceeds temperatures that you can't even fathom. And ultimately, the reason why that is being done is because it's breaking down the fibers. Okay, so now you understand that.
Hmm.
When's the last time you had any grease on anything, and how much effort it takes to separate grease from anything? Oil and
Right.
vinegar, right? So if you got that grease on that cardboard and you break it on the fibers, do you think that that's going to be a good route to go? No, that means that load is going to be contaminated, so you can't use it. So when
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
break it down that way, then people could visually understand how that doesn't work, and they can make an effort because they understand the process. This is why I feel that individuals do not recycle as often or as dedicated because they don't see the end result.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's always about the end result. If you can see the end clearly, you know which route to go.
Mhm.
And it's amazing how the education piece, either I don't know, it's just not getting propagated right, or the folks
Yeah.
ain't taking the time. Either way, and I'm talking about that whole episode was this last month, man. It's 2021 type stuff. This ain't
Mhm.
like years ago. This just happened like last month. So folks, and Ricky, it looks like Ricky's got the question for you, brother.
Oh, Ricky's in the house. What's going on? Yeah, what he's talking about? Can you?
Well. This was she say. Recycling may be a lost leader, but what's the cost of not having clean air and water and no natural resources for future generations? We can't kick the bucket down the road to the next generation to figure it out. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
And these are California girls. These are people from the West
Yes.
Coast.
New York
It's
City.
just New York, down here in Florida, which environment is a huge thing, right? Because we get my background is Hawaii because that's where my heart is, but I'm actually in Orlando. Uh, you know, these are places where the environment can literally kill you if you don't take care of it. Here in
Hmm.
Florida, we get our water from the ground. It's not coming. They recycle the stuff and they got plants and all stuff, but originally they getting it, right up from the ground.
Yeah.
And so, if we're dumping oil from our last oil change into the sand, guess where that's going? It's just like the whole, washing the cardboard. That
Mhm.
oil, it doesn't get broken down that easy, and it ended up making it back into your system. So,
Yep.
so Crystal is cheering on Ricky. Say it again, Ricky. That's
Yeah,
right.
and mind you, you know what it is at this. Mind you, we and I say we because I take ownership within my company. Even though I'm
Right.
an employee, I'm proud of what I do. I take pride in that, and I love to educate individuals, even when they look at me like, all right, do you mind if I tell you something briefly? And then it just so that's fine. Like I literally, I won't say who, but I spoke to someone today, and this is a large opportunity, a large scenario, and they say, well, we're going to be doing recycling, and we're going to be doing some waste in this project. And I said, okay, so and I asked them, who's going to be managing the cardboard, and who's going to be managing that material that goes in that container? Do you know, or do you feel that they're responsible? And if so, if not, we might have to consider going with all trash. Mainly because at this point, what happens is sometimes if you don't have the process and procedures in place
Right.
to make sure that this material is sorted properly, I'm sorry to tell you that material has to go to the landfill because the time and effort it's going to take to sort an overwhelming amount of waste, it doesn't pay. So you have to do it in front of and educate it, educate your team members. That's the reason why. And that's why, and then to wrap up this point, when it pertains to what Chrissy was saying, you want to kick it down the path, the road down, and you kick it down the road for the future to manage. But what happens is a lot of companies will come to me and say, Marcello, I'm interested in implementing a recycling initiative. And I love that. And I ask them, okay, well, have you considered, or do you have a budget for it?
Mm-hmm.
And then, and there's crickets essentially sometimes. And what do you mean by budget? I'm thinking I'm saving
So
money.
it's always crickets when the budget comes up.
Okay. So if I understand you correctly, you're expecting to save money when you recycle. Essentially, yes. Essentially, yes. That is the truth. But the fact we're going to implement something new, there's going to be some change. And in doing so, there's going to be some loss of revenue or production. Have you budgeted for that? Let me get back to you.
Yeah, let me check the purse real quick.
But you want to
Hey,
be, you have to give people the hard news up front. Mind
right.
you, you may save money, and I want to qualify. You may, and most of the time you do, but it's a long game. It's not the short game. If you don't have
Right.
something implemented now, then you implement something new, and there's a change of culture. You got to consider that too.
Yeah, as I said when we started, right? Is it sustainable? Is this something that you're prepared to carry on year after year and make it really something? Because you don't really get the benefits from anything like that till
No.
later on. I want to take the time and thank Antonio for being with us. He's over there in Trinidad, Tobago, and Muhammad from Pakistan. Hey, hey, you know July is international month for me, right? I my birthday month is international for me, and so thank you, Muhammad and Antonio, for joining us tonight. So we covered a little bit about waste management and the environmentals, not quite enough to even make an impact on conversationally wise on what's happening out there.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna leave you guys before we transition here into leadership because there's a lot of waste there too. So uh, be conscious of what you want to decide in what area you want to manage your waste and get educated. The education behind waste managers was where is at because back to that pizza box, right?
Mhm.
The difference between my pizza box in the garbage and that individual's pizza box in the recycling bin was equal to look at I had peace and they were running down the street trying to get get the guy from the recycling truck. All right, so that's the difference. The
Mhm.
difference is I had peace because I had gotten some level of education and I applied it to my process.
Mhm.
That person did not take that advantage and they were running down the street. So, at least at a minimum, it'll save you some heartache,
Yeah.
right? If not money, right? Because all that running around cost him something. I'm sure his insurance went up. But uh but so now we're going to talk about, because the reason why I had you on here tonight, not only because of your background,
Thank you.
which you can apply, and I want people to reach out to you for that specific thing. But waste management and leadership is something nobody ever hears about. Nobody hears about.
What do you mean by that?
And this is what I mean. Most of leadership development is based on what's missing. What is missing? They don't even go and ask you, what do you have currently that we can work on, and then what is missing that we can add on. And typically a good leadership developer will come in and ask you those type of questions. But a great leadership developer will say, and what are you doing that are not in those two cubbies that are resulting in total waste? Total waste. Now, we mentioned relationships earlier on. And I love that you threw that out there, because that is one of the areas where I feel that leaders are actually wasting the time
Relationships.
in relationships. They don't invest nearly as much into a relationship based transaction at work than they are at just a task space, right?
Yeah.
I told you to do that. That's what I expect you to do. Uh, and they expect people to do it. It blows my mind. But some people, because they're subservient, right? They try to honor those in leadership, those above them, will more than likely fulfill that, you know.
But that sounds
But
like fear-based management, based on.
yeah, here we go. You're getting ahead of me now, but right, but and we're going to talk about that, because all of those things are relationship based attributes, things
Yeah.
that will definitely will impact the relationship. But the number one thing to right now I want to talk about is leadership and waste management in relationships.
You messed me up with that one because I'm like, okay, like, so that's like, like you think about. Let me give you an example. You got peanut butter and jelly, but now you threw a third one in there. I'm not sure if that's a pickle or a cucumber. Like, what kind of sandwich I'm about to eat right now?
well, this is where I'm trying to go with this, right? So,
Okay,
folks,
thank you.
hey, you guys are all welcome to chime in on here.
Chime in and help me out to understand the question.
All right. So the question is, where do you see the biggest waste in a as far as leader and team member relationship in terms of relationship? Because this is how I see it when I go and evaluate and talk with people.
Okay.
It's always a hierarchy, and they stick to that hierarchy as the golden standard, right? And hey, look, I was in the military. That is the golden standard, right? That's a hierarchy,
It's
and you're
proven.
not. Yeah,
It works.
it works, and it works because it's geared towards leader follower, right? And it goes all the way from the top all the way down to the bottom. In corporate America, there may be a leader follower hierarchy because of titles, right? But there's not a UCMJ, a military code of conduct governing anybody. And there's a thing, and most jobs are the type that say, this is like a no fault type of at will relationship. And you sign this document, and we can let you go with or without notice at any time.
Yep.
Oh, and by the way, you can do it too. And I don't want to get into this notice thing because I got a whole I could do a whole show about this notice thing.
But you know
But
what I like to add? Let me add to the, and I'll let you finish your thought on this. It's not necessarily about management, but I will say this. This applies to anyone that's listening to this. Consider that, just like I said before, when you're interviewing, you're going through an interview. The purpose of the interview is for both parties to decide if this is a good fit. What if you approach each day as an opportunity? It sounds a bit callous, but to re-interview for that role. Imagine if you had that same tenacity, the same drive, the same passion. Sorry to be cliche, but that's essentially what it is. That you had when you interviewed for the role. What about if you have that same passion each and every day when you start your day? Then that point that at will, then you have the opportunity to fire the job because then you knew and you know you've been putting your best foot forward either to manage your team or to do your task. So you should be fine. That's what it
yeah,
is. So I feel that people don't do that enough and then they blame the system. Whatever system you want to, whatever you pick, this, that, never taking ownership. But
right, right. Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. That's where you garner the true power of that relationship. When
mhm,
you have fulfilled your part, and
yep.
then if anything came up that you had to say, "Hey, I got to cut that," that you could do it rightly so, right?
Mhm,
So,
yeah. You can be
but
resolute. Yep.
exactly. So, so a long roll around the question of relationship. Um, have you seen waste in relationships at that leadership team member level?
I've seen it historically. Yeah, no question about that. I think that unfortunately we, as a society, and not necessarily just speaking in my organization, or I'm just talking about overall in my history and employment, I think that sometimes companies hire wasteful individuals just to fill a seat. Is that
Mm,
where you're going? Is
yeah,
that what you're saying?
that's exactly.
Because I think that sometimes, and I mind you, and sometimes it baffles me sometimes when I've seen this historically in the past when I've sat in different roles and I'm looking at the person that got hired and I look at myself, I look at that person, I look at my colleague, I look at that person again, and it just doesn't make, I don't make the connection. It could be they knew someone. Okay, I got that. But they must have something. They must bring something to the table. And when they don't carry their weight, then that's where it goes to what I'm talking about, wasteful. And eventually those individuals are not sustainable.
Hmm.
And then they are pushed to the side or are easier to get rid of. But sadly, sometimes, as I was talking to a colleague, a good friend of mine, and actually an old colleague of mine today, he was telling me that within his organization, they're going to be restructuring people's roles because there was a merger, two different companies merged.
Mm,
So they're going to be, determining what different roles are redundant, and essentially they're going to be giving people payouts. So to bring this thought full circle, those individuals that are wasteful, not sustainable, sadly sometimes stay because they uh, are more profitable to stay rather than keeping someone that earns more money.
mm. Yeah, that's a whole different ball of wax there.
Yeah, just using that scenario as an example,
Right, right. Yeah, and
and
in
those
the
people get packages. You know what I'm talking about.
yeah, yeah, I've seen it. Believe me, I am scratch my head at the end of that and say, okay, tomorrow's a new day. I'll come back tomorrow. Um, in the same token of and folks, for those that are in leadership positions, this is a good spot to just highlight that your choices can bear a lot of repercussion if you choose the wrong person for the job. And in the HR department, that's usually the bane of their existence is hiring the wrong person, because all that time, that you spend in interviews and getting people ready and all these investigations on this person and that person, and all of a sudden you boil down to one person, you say let's go, you hit the on switch and the light doesn't come on, right? So because it happens.
Yes.
in this, so for leaders that are out there in a position to hire, consider that, and get some way to check that. There's got to be a way to check that, right?
Mm,
Um, so, but let's go and flip that coin around, and now you're the go getter that just got hired. You're gonna pull your weight. Nobody's gonna have to ask
no.
you to pull your weight. But now you have this leader that doesn't invest in you as a person, right? So there's a waste in a relationship there where the leader doesn't take the opportunity to learn who you are,
Yep.
to use you at what you're most capable at, and to find out where they can actually come in and help you shore up those areas that maybe had need some attention.
Hmm.
So, have you seen that?
Do I see it? Yes. Have I seen it? Do I still see it? Yeah. It's sad. And mind you, I think that let me start by my thought with this. The individual has to take the responsibility,
Yeah.
not the management. Man, you can't sit back and wait management to knock on your door and say, "Hey, Enrique, I'm ready to mentor you." No. Either what you could do, and this is typical, you could find someone within your organization that you admire and like how the approach is. Obviously, get your management team to vet it that's acceptable and that they encourage you to sit down with them, talk with them, and maybe even schedule time for you to even understand their process, whatever it might be,
Right.
management, whatever level it might be. Um, Even sometimes LinkedIn is a fantastic platform.
Yep.
If there's a job that you're interested in or a role, once you connect with those individuals already currently in that role on LinkedIn, befriend them. Don't send them a huge pitch. Don't sell them anything. Follow, see what they're posting, engage in the comments, and then eventually, once you start building some form of a pseudo relationship, then you might feel a little bit more compelled to ask, "Hey, the reason why I connected with you is because I'm interested in entering that role. Are you available to have a chat? Or I can send you a few questions that I already have, and you can share your insights. And then if you see it valuable, then let's sit down and talk." So don't send the proverbial, "Do you have 5 minutes to talk?"
Look, I look at that. I'm like,
Sometimes tell me what you want to know, how it can be of service. Maybe we could just answer back and forth via instant message. And then if we find it valuable, we can schedule a time. Very often I'll schedule a driving chat, and I'm driving to a destination, and I say, "Well, give me your number. Let me know what time frame is acceptable for me to call you. I'll call you whenever I'm in a vehicle, a visit on my way to a customer, and just be prepared for my call. And let me know, then you could ask your questions, or we could just have a candid conversation, whichever works best." So that's what I could recommend. In addition to that, the person that has to take responsibility, find into different sources online. My best education that I've been getting in the past 15 plus years have been time shifted media, aka podcast. I subscribe to numerous podcasts on various topics, anywhere from leadership, mindset, sales, technology, relationships, to the point that I think that whenever I give advice, I always preface it by, "I listened to this topic on a podcast, or I heard it on a podcast." It's so often that I get educated that way. Mind you, if something is compelling enough, I'll do my due diligence and research and confirm that what I read or heard makes
right, right.
sense. But it stems the dialogue most of the time through a podcast. So I highly recommend folks, if you want to be educated or you want to grow within either your organization or change roles, there's several. I'm sure there's a podcast out there that tackles it. And if not, maybe some derivative of it that you could use some of the skills or some of the advice that you can implement in your current role.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned LinkedIn. And before we get into that, Ricky had asked, "How does your company leadership stay informed of the culture that is being implemented at the lower ranks, and how do they change it when it has strayed from what they envision?"
That's a fantastic question, really is. And I'm proud to say that our organization have an initiative we call Let's Talk, and that's done internally.
Hmm.
So I'm not gonna give what I'm saying is even though it's private, it's not gonna be something earth shattering. So we get different groups of people. That's the best way to put it. And we invite different conversations to have around several topics. And we encourage the participant to share topics that they want to be covered in the discussion. So it's anywhere between uh, uh, gay and lesbians, African Americans, Latino. The most recent one was a Latino X call, and they were talking about how the Latinos have contributed to the waste management industry and different topics around that, like leadership and Latinos in leadership as well. So yeah, so we've been our organization has been quite aggressive in engaging everyone from all different levels to ensure that they do play a part. And I can say that, and mind you, and this is just me talking. This is not my company talking. I see it personally, and I'm quite encouraged by the initiatives that our organization have taken.
Yeah, it's important to have a mechanism where you can have and engage in those types of talks where folks feel, hey, like, hey, I'm being heard, and not just heard, but hopefully some actions get taken. But in
Yep.
any case, if you have a way to bring forth that information of culture changes and amendments and implementations, where both top and bottom can get fed through, through the middle. Usually middle management runs that type of stuff, and
Yeah.
they feed the top, or they get it from the top and they feed it to the bottom. But and I've been in situations like that where all hands, we call them all hands, right?
Yep.
We all get together and we discuss everything, so there are mechanisms and ways to do that, and it works.
Yeah.
um, so when we were talking about both sides of that coin, right? You mentioned LinkedIn as a source, and then I'll tell you real quickly. There was a young lady. She was looking for career development advice. She reached out to me. I spoke to her on leadership aspects, but this is what happens, right? So for those out there trying to get this stuff, I had, after that conversation, I had looked into my first degree, connections
Yeah.
that were in her field. I had four doctors, senior doctors, in the field that she wanted to go into.
Okay.
And I asked them, obviously, first, respectfully, for their time.
Yeah.
Hey, I had this person spoke to me. And I know you do this. Would you mind speaking to them? And all four rogered up, right? So what just happened? She reached out, kind of what you say. She
Yep.
reached out to a career leadership and developer, and I was able to connect her to right to the source. And so that's where the power of LinkedIn is actually realized.
Yes.
Uh, and now she's got four mentors that are where she wants to be. And so
That's
it
perfect.
wasn't me, right? I'm not, but I was a conduit, and the connections do work. They work if you have the right connections for the right reasons. So I love
So
that
you
you
telling
brought
me
that up.
that graphic designer from a city in a country that I never heard about that works in Fiverr is not a good connection for me?
Oh no, let me tell you, I let me tell you, because yeah, Muhammad's with us and he's in Pakistan, and and there's a lot of different countries. They have experts in what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's the beauty of it all. They connect with you. You look at what they're doing, and hey, I'm one, and I was just talking about this just actually this morning. I have 15,000 connections, okay, so what? If I engage and share with 100 is a lot.
Yeah.
So I always tell them, hey, I got bad math here. I got I got bad math. That so but those connections, although and followers, although they may not be engaging, they're still accessible for what they're good at, right? So
Hmm.
even when they don't engage with you, you still can reach out and and hey, employ them, right?
Hmm.
Employ them or get them to provide some advice to someone else.
And that's what I'll ask folks. If you're watching this video live or replay, I highly encourage you to connect with me when I connected. And if you want a strategy to engage your connections, let me know. Reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to share. And it's essentially is a template. And I can send you a template that you can modify, that you can utilize to re-engage people that you connected with. It's a reason why you connect with them, and like you said, you can't stay actively connected with them. But I'd be more than happy to share a template and also the methodology that you can incorporate to engage your connections, which ultimately is going to help with the algorithm and it's going to help you as well with the posts that you post and increases your engagement naturally as well. So I'd be more than happy to share that. Whomever want to reach out and ask.
Outstanding. Hey, and let's talk a little bit of time waste.
Time
Time
waster.
waste. Time waste at work. Hey, look, there, if there's anything that's costing the company's gonna suffer
Mm-hmm.
in many different ways
Yep.
with their products, with their marketing, with their
Mm-hmm.
sales, yada yada. But one thing that's never calculated is how much they suffer from waste in time at that company. So,
Well, this what I can tell you. I think I have it on my profile. And I'll be more than happy to share it at a later time. I'll come back and share it in the comments. And I have a video that I created called Downtime Itis.
mhm.
So that speaks to the downtime or wasted time. So I'll share it in the comments later on. But yeah, it's on my profile. It's on my
Mhm.
feature section. So
Yep.
I didn't want to see you, but more than happy. But yeah, let me let you finish your question.
Yeah. So, what strategies should leadership be looking at to fight that downtime-itis, right? Because it
Yeah.
is no joke a pandemic in itself.
Yep.
That thing has plagued all companies in one way or another.
I think that the best approach for something like that is understanding who you have in your workforce and what their strong suits are. And quite frankly, sometimes if you don't know, it's okay. It's okay. You don't think, oh, I know that Enrique is good with this, or I know that such and such is good with that. You know what? Enrique might be good with technology, but guess what? Enrique is fed up. He don't want to do technology anymore. He don't want to be the subject matter expert for that. So even if you give him that task, he might not complete it with so much passion. I'm sure people watching this live or the replay, they're like, yeah, my boss always reaches out to me when they have a Latino customer.
Oh, oh,
And you got someone else as well. It's fine. You're more than happy to help. Pero oye, mano, come on now.
take a lesson or something.
So that's the thing. So that's an example. I mean, but the key thing is that probably reassessing your workforce could be something that you could implement. Sit down, like when you mentioned, like these Let's Talk or these fireside chats. Sit down and ask, hey, now that it appears that we're in a downturn direction from the pandemic and we're starting to get back to normal, let's not necessarily re-interview for the job, but let's try to understand exactly where we're at. What is your passion? What are your goals? Have your vision changed? This is the
Mm,
question you should be
yep,
asking your team members.
yep.
And then ultimately, you could probably put those individuals in the right role that they want to be in currently or in the future. And then ultimately, you could actually really reignite your team. And if your culture, if we could rate it from a 1 to a 10, and if your culture was at a 5 or maybe a 7, you could go all the way to 8 to a 9. quickly, and that
Yeah.
ultimately could be go towards your bottom line.
Yeah, my boy Steve, he says great content as always. Enrique just sent you. Yeah, I'll look at that message, brother. And he loves Marcello's candor and perspective. Spot on. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
brother, for supporting. Look, we mentioned relationship waste at first when we're talking about leadership because it is a thing. This is the most critical time that most all companies all at once is facing the reintegration of a separation because of the pandemic
Yes.
uh to try to bring them back into the fold, right? And I'm talking about the fold, the actual location.
Yeah.
If you're not asking some relationship based questions today, don't expect you to have a full on relationship when they
Yep.
come back in. Things have changed. Look, I'm going to give you me as an example, right? February, end of February, I decided, man, you know what? Let me go back into the workforce because they're getting tied up in here. Okay, so I get hired. Look, I've been blessed beyond measure. I don't even know how, but I was hired. Good. My mom passed April 1st because of COVID. That, and I was just talking to my wife about this not too long ago. That messed me up. It messed me up. The leader, leadership development guy that you see right here today was out of commission.
Wow.
I could not think right. I couldn't. I didn't know what to feel. I was just because guess what? I was raised in the military, right? We
Yeah.
don't see that stuff. We just let's go, let's go, let's go. But
Yeah.
now I'm back. I'm out here back in Gem Pop, right, with everybody else, and uh, I didn't. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to act. I didn't know how to think. So it froze me, man. And I had to pull the plug on the job, man, because
Wow.
I at least was coherent enough to realize that I was more of a liability than I was of a positive attribute.
Wow.
And so
That's quite noble of you.
look, you can't teach truth and not live it, right?
Yeah.
So, and I know it hurt them in one way or another, right? Uh, but I did not, I was not feeling good about my position. I definitely was not feeling good about getting paid for nothing,
Hmm.
because most of my colleagues were pulling away, and
Yeah.
it was not a place I had ever been. I had not ever been, other than one time. I will say that one
Hmm.
time I was in this position where I had to be carried because I sure did not know what I was doing. But in this particular spot, uh, uh, being new to this side of life, although you live in the military, but being new on this side of life,
Yeah.
it's different, right? But what I said, all that was for that they are relationships that you and conversations that you're gonna have to have with your people because a lot has happened.
Yeah.
I lost one. I know a family that lost four. I know families that the whole entire family got sick because they decided to have a huge, party, right? So, but it's still though the psychological piece behind all that has occurred,
Hmm.
the isolation, the not having the normal friend relationships,
Yeah.
the having to be on Zoom all the time, right? Or a platform all the time
Hmm.
has changed the psyche of the worker. And if leaders are not ready to have some real relationship based question type of conversation,
Hmm. Oh yeah.
they're going to bring somebody in that they didn't hire.
And it's funny
It's
you say that. Bring in, even though they're already in, but they're different. They're not the same. And some of them speak from, and not within my organization, but people that I've know in other positions. They are they resent the idea that they have to go back to the office. So think about a person that has to do a task begrudgingly,
mm,
Are you gonna get their best?
Yeah, there's a lot of relationship waste type of conversation need to happen, and it needs to happen today and not tomorrow. Definitely not when they're coming in.
No.
Now, some people may share how they truly feel. Some others, may not. That's on them. But as a leader, you got to have these conversations.
True.
So we talked about relationship waste. We talked about time waste. Hey, time waste. Uh, I don't know. I thought that during the pandemic and being at home, there would be a more of a time waste. But what I saw is, a lot of times was that people felt even more compelled to prove that they were actually doing something because they didn't want to
Mhm.
get seen as, hey, I'm wasting my time. They're like pulling the plug while I'm out here
Yep.
trying to survive. So I think some of that has, had occurred. But now you mentioned a good point, begrudgingly. Is this something people want to even do
Yep.
anymore? Go back. Because, look, I tell you, I used to have to drive a good almost hour to work and an hour back, right?
Wow.
There's 2 hours of my life that I saved because I was
I
here,
know.
right? And so, hey, I was happy about that, and I'm still happy about that, although I'm not working now. But uh, but these are the things. These are the things that you have to talk about. And so,
Mhm.
leaders, it's on you. Uh, you know, uh, your workers can't do it if you don't if you don't ask about it.
No.
So, the third waste I wanted to talk about. So we talk about relationship and time, career,
Mm.
my career. Where am I headed? And this is funny because I always ask this question when I'm going in an interview. I say that, what system do you have in place that is geared toward helping me get to my next milestone and make a career out of this position?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
how you look right now
I know.
is how they look at me, and I like,
It's quite
hmm,
quite common. I mean, unless you get like a BS answer, you know,
yeah,
which you can smell it out because I
right,
say you
right.
smell it out because if you ask a follow-up question and dissect the answer and break it down and ask follow-up questions to the answer, and they don't have a follow, they don't have an answer to it, then you know it was fluff.
That right, right. So there's a lot of career waste. Life basically. If you talk about it, it's life. You don't have a system that is ensuring me that the life I'm investing in here is going to end up somewhere else. You know,
Hmm.
outside of this position.
Yeah.
Now, some people, I have heard this. Why are they asking me that when they just started, right?
Then
and I'm
if that's the interviewer thinking that,
and I'm like, what?
that might not be the best place for you to work. I know
Right,
I
right.
wouldn't want to work there if the interviewer is thinking that.
And so I love at the beginning you said, hey, this is a two-way kind of thing, right? I'm
Yeah.
trying to find out if I'm the right fit for you. You're trying to find out if you're the right fit for me, but I'm also want to find out if you're the right fit for me,
Yeah.
right? So there's this exchange of, are we right for each other, and which hardly ever goes two-sided. It's usually one-sided.
Yeah.
So in terms of career waste, what and a person that is unfortunately in that predicament, right?
Yeah.
Um, what would you suggest that they look into or do, especially uh, with the times that we're in?
Yeah. If the individual has identified that they're wasting each day in the current role that they're in, first they have to identify what they want.
Mm. And in
Because
mind,
yeah, I mean, hey, I want to be president of the United States. Okay. You get, I'm exaggerating, but you get what I'm saying.
right?
Like, if you're working at a customer service role and you want to be in sales or you want to be in leadership, okay, why are you not in that role now? What are the challenges that you didn't see? What are the challenges you had then, or why you didn't decide to get in that career path then? What's different now? Okay, now if that's the case, what are the things that you're doing now to ensure that you are a good candidate for that position?
Mm.
Are you talking to other individuals in that role to identify if you could be a good fit? People that can speak candidly with you, like, yeah, you're a little bit rough around the edges. You may want to stay indoors. You may want to work in a warehouse or whatever it might be.
Right.
Or you may have to go back to school. I mean, you need to actually talk to someone that's going to give it to you straight. That's my first thing. So really find out, goes back to LinkedIn, like I said earlier. That's easiest route to go. Identify individuals that are in the role that you want to be in and follow them. See the things that they're talking about. Does that resonate with you? Does that feed your soul? And see the comments that they comment on the people's posts. Is that how you would speak? Does that do their views in line with yours? You know, mind you, it's a bit broad, but still, it's not too far off.
Right.
So that's a start. That's what I would suggest. And then, um, you know what? It's something as simple as, let's say, Toastmasters and things
Mm.
like that
Yeah.
locally that you can connect with. You may not come across someone that is in the role that you want, but the more people that you talk that are growth minded are more willing to introduce you to people that you could help you to get to the role that you want. So that's something else you could consider. And then lastly, it goes back to the source resources either on YouTube or even podcasts. And then lastly, LinkedIn
Right.
Live. There's a lot of content that could either shift or align your mindset to where you want to be, or quite frankly, even identify. I'll be frank with you. I've been in sales. I've been a career salesman and that's basically it. I've been a career salesman. I I often go through moments in time like, what else can I do? How can I contribute more? How what is this good? Is this a good use of my time? Because I've been successful in what I do, so much so that it comes extremely easy
Hmm.
to me. I cannot stress that enough. Sales come extremely easy. I mean, I don't even put up the trophies anymore. Let's say that because it just when you go to President's Club, I don't have it's really easy for me. So I want a new challenge. So I say that to say I have not still identified what else I want to do. So while I continue, I have that type of mind that I do want to shift into something else. Is it coaching? Is it I don't know? Is it sales enablement training? Is it mentoring? I don't know. You get what I'm saying?
I,
Go
I
ahead.
was just thinking the cello sales school. But hey, and there comes a time where you have to, push that info out, right, and see it birthed in other people. I would love to see that come
Thank
to
you, brother.
fruition.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Ricky said this: we need to turn, and we're obviously talking about leaders and the reintegration of the
Mm,
workforce into an actual building. We need to turn our focus on to our humanity and empathize. The business will grow as a byproduct of happy and well-adjusted employees, and that has always been the case,
wow.
not just with the pandemic. I mean, it's always been the case.
Yep.
It's just that now we've had this thing that we could say, "Oh, yeah, that okay." Folks, we've been talking about waste management, both on the actual,
Yep.
sustainability programs that cities have and waste management on the leadership, employee, team member side.
Hmm.
Uh, we talked about relationship waste management, time waste management, and career waste management. Three things that you will undoubtedly face in your lifetime if you're ever in a career. Cello, thank you for sharing tonight with me. If people want to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
Oh, easily. You can have my number. My number is 678-683-9136. Once you stalk me, I'll block you. So that's not gonna be a problem. But you can reach me there. My email address is on my profile. So please feel free to reach out to me directly there and connect with me on LinkedIn. And then lastly, I'm in the waste and recycling business, and I know I'm in sales. However, consider me as a resource. You'd be surprised who I know
Mm,
or who I'm willing to know to help you.
that's right.
And I've said that to all my
Yep.
clients. I said, I don't care. After I set up your compactor here, consider me as a resource. And I'll say this to say, I've had customers that came to me say, hey, Marcello, I need a porta potty service. Yeah, because we're running 3 shifts, and the porta on the toilets that we have in the facility are not enough. I need
Hmm.
to set up those sophisticated toilets outside. Can you help me? Guess what? That's not my business. And if you look at my profile, you'll see a video. I
Hmm.
reached out to LinkedIn,
Yeah, I
and I got
remember.
you remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and I got several opportunities for my client, and they eventually hired one person, one
Yeah,
company.
look
But
at
I'm
that.
happy to help, even if it has nothing to do with my helping my company or helping me monetarily. Please consider me as a resource. And again, Enrique, thank you so much for inviting me. I really enjoy
Yeah,
our chat,
brother.
so thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I've been waiting for this show for a while. I've been fortunate to hop on with you several times
Yeah,
now, and love it. Folks, reach out to Cello. At will. He's actually giving you his phone. I normally don't encourage that, but my phone is out there too, so it doesn't
yeah,
matter.
I know. That's what I'm saying. You just might as well give it because they're gonna find it no matter what, and it's on my
Yeah,
profile. So if I can be of service, really, I mean it. I'm being very sincere. Please reach out to me.
yeah, he definitely is. So, folks, leadership and waste management. Don't waste relationship time or someone's career. If you need help, you know where to come. I'll hit you up, get you
Mhm.
straight. But for everybody out there, Aloha Friday. Aloha, everybody. Shaka to all of you. And be good. Success to you, everybody.
Bye, guys.